Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by guitar-zoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to guitar-zoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
Check 1, 2, check. Okay. If you can see me and you can hear me okay, welcome to our series here. I'm going to be doing some live workshops over the next week. These are called live blues guitar workshops. So we're going to be starting off doing some workshops on blues rhythm. That's what we're doing today. Hey, how you doing? Please let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Yeah, I'll turn that down just a little bit more. And sorry about my studio. My studio is being renovated right now, so I'm actually just going live from my laptop. So hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. Hey, Roy. Hey, Dave. Hey, everybody. Let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. Awesome. Thank you. Great audio. Good. I'm glad. Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to... Awesome. Thank you, guys. So what we're going to be doing today, just so you know, today, Monday, I'm going to be going live every other day for the next Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday for the next 4 days. And what we're going to be doing is we're actually celebrating. I've got a guitar course coming out called Creative Blues Soloing, where I'm going to be talking about licks and phrasing and just skills overall that make your blues sound a little more authentic. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So if you get a chance to join me, again, every day at noon on, of course, today, but then Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, we're going to be talking about various different skills, okay, to get your blues kind of where it needs to be. So what I want to remind you of is, again, I've got a course coming out from GuitarZoom, if you are familiar with GuitarZoom, Creative Blues Soloing. So there'll probably be a link somewhere in the description or something for you to check that out. I see it just popped up there on one of the things there. It says you'll learn licks and techniques used by famous blues guitar players so your blues solos sound authentic instead of like a scale. And that's always been the most important thing, is just trying to figure out how to make your music sound like music and not just like you're playing scales up and down. Now, today, we're not going to be focusing on soloing. What I want to do today, and hopefully it won't bore any of you, but I do have to get some of the beginning stuff out because I've seen a lot of questions about some fundamental rhythmic things, and that's what I want to talk about today. So if you know a lot of this stuff, you can just bear with me for a little while, or maybe it'll still do you some good further down the road. And if you don't, I'm going to try and help you really understand a bit more about blues rhythm and the 12-bar blues and understanding some things like that, some chordal expansions. I saw some questions about that, so I'm going to do my best to get in there and do some of those, okay? Hey, Keith. Hey, Edison. Hey, John. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see here. Okay, so it says here, there's a link in the chat, in the description, where you can learn more about the course and get a special workshop discount and bonus guitar courses. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing I want to do is let's just talk about blues rhythm. Now, blues is so different from other styles of music. When you say to somebody, hey, let's study rock, or let's study country, or let's study metal, or whatever it might be, the thing that makes blues so different is when you say, hey, let's jam some blues, there's already some parameters that are put in place that most musicians would understand. We don't know the whole thing until we start talking and figure it out. But we do understand that what we're really talking about more than likely is a progression called the 12-bar blues. And it may not be exactly that. It would be something based off of that. And it's going to be based off 3 chords, what we call the 1, 4, and 5 chords. And that's what I want to do is I want to start off, and again, I apologize if you know some of this stuff, but I really do want to start at the beginning and make sure everybody's got a handle on this, okay? So I don't want to leave anybody hanging, okay? So here's what we do, is when we're talking about blues, the first thing we need to understand is that blues, for the most part, begins by being based off 3 chords. The 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's say we're in the key of C, and we're not going to worry about, sharps and flats and all those things. I don't want to get into all of that right now. I'm going to keep it as easy as I possibly can, okay? But let's think, if I was talking about the key of C, my notes, my chords would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And some of those are major and some of those are minor. And again, we're not going to get all crazy with that right now. I just want to keep this nice and easy if you've never thought about this before, okay? So 1, 4, 5, what I'm doing is if I'm in the key of C and my notes, my chords are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Because remember, music only goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H or Q or something. So if I start on C, I'm going, think about a piano if you know a piano. If you don't, it's okay. But I'm playing C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C all over again. So what 1, 4, 5 is taking the first chord, the fourth chord, and the fifth chord of that key and playing those chords. So if we think about it, if I was in the key of C, I have C, D, E, F, and G. So C, F, and G would be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C, D, E, F, G. So C, F, and G. Now those three chords could be played here. Okay. Or, if, for instance, if you know your power chords, you might play C, F, or G. Or if you know your bar chords, you might play C major, F major, G major. Or if you knew your 6-string C chord up here, you might play C major, F major, and G major. So there's lots of different places on the guitar that you could play these three chords. Okay, so why do we say 1, 4, 5 instead of saying C, F, and G? Well, the reason is 1, 4, 5 doesn't dictate a particular key. Okay, if I tell you, hey, we're going to play some blues in the key of A, you already know to think, well, what's the 1, 4, 5 in the key of A? A, B, C, D, E. A, D, E. Okay, now, for those of you that might be kind of familiar with this, okay, the 12-bar blues, okay, you might be saying to yourself, well, are there other kinds of blues? Yes, there's 8-bar blues, and sometimes with 12-bar blues we use different chords. Again, there's no absolutes to music at all. But if we start with understanding a basic structure, we can then go off and we can start elaborating a bit more from there. Okay? So if we think about this 12-bar blues now 12-bar meaning 12 measures, 12 measure blues. And it consists at this point of a 1, 4, 5 in whatever key we want to be in. Okay? So think about this. If we want to do a 12-bar blues in the key of A, well, then we think, well, what's 1, 4, and 5, right? So A, B, C, D, E. A, D, and E. Now, you might play A here, and D here, and E here. Or you might play your A here, power chord, bar chord, whatever. Again, we're going to get into those in a little bit. A, D, and E. Yes, this is live, Truth Guitar Method. This is live. No, well, I don't know if you want to call it a premiere, but I'm live right now sitting in my my dining room at home because my studio is being renovated. So I'm on my laptop right now. Okay? So anyway, if that makes sense, let me show you something. I want to make sure I still have this up before I do this here. Give me a second here. There we go. Okay. Okay, let me show you something real quick, okay? So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. All right, here we go. Now let me know if you can see this, okay? Just let me know if you can see this. It says 12-bar blues, and then you'll see 12 measures, okay? Now those 12 measures, you'll see above each one of those measures, there's a 1, Roman numeral number 1, a Roman numeral number 4, and a Roman numeral number 5, okay? Is this the same as the Facebook Live? Yes, I do believe so. No screen? You can't see the screen? Oh, no. Okay, well, let's try this then. It says it was sharing, but it's okay if you can't see it. Let me do it this way. Okay, what I want you to imagine is we have 3 groups of 4 measures. 4, 4, and 4. It's okay, we don't need the screen. I can explain it to you just like this, okay? So 4, 4, and 4. So 4 measures, 4 measures, and 4 measures. Oh, so some of you saw the screen and some of you didn't, but it's okay. We don't need it. Okay, so that's our 12 measures. We have 3 sequences of 4 measures. Now, the top 4, what we're going to do with those top 4 measures is we're going to play a 1 chord for all 4 of those measures. Okay, so 1 chord in the first measure, 1 chord in the second measure, 1 chord in the third measure, and 1 chord in the fourth measure. Okay, when we get to the next 4 measures, what we're going to do is for 2 of those measures, we're going to play a 4 chord, and then 2 measures, we're going to play a 1 chord. So if you've got a piece of paper, you could write down 4 measures, just 4 lines, and write 1, 1, 1, 1, and then write 4 more lines for the middle section and write 4, 4, 1, 1. Okay? And then on the bottom, you're going to write 5, 4, 1, and 5. You know what? Somebody said that it might be that it works on a computer but not on a mobile, and that might be true. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it again, and if you can't see the screen, it's okay. I'm going to come back in just a minute, and I'm going to keep going with this. But if you can see it, I want you to take a look. If you're on a laptop or a computer or something, you might be able to see that. Okay? Do you see how it says 1, 1, 1, 1, and then the next 4 measures it says 4, 4, 1, 1, and then the last 4 measures it says 5, 4, 1, 5. Okay? All right, so now I've stopped sharing that, so we'll come back, and it's okay if you can't see it. Okay? It's all right. Okay, so we've got, let me type it in here. Somebody had a really good idea. So your first 4 would be 1, 1, 1, 1. There you go. And then 4, 4, 1, 1. And then 5, 4, 1, 1. Okay? So what that means is for 12 measures, the 12-bar blues, what we're going to do is we're going to play that sequence, and we're going to choose whatever key we want to play in. So let's say we wanted to play in the key of A. And let's say the only thing you knew how to play were some open chords. You didn't know bar chords or power chords yet. Okay? So let's say we're going to start with just an A chord, that's our 1. Our D chord, which would become A, B, C, D, would be our 4 chord. Okay? And then 5 would be E. Okay? Rishi, you said, I thought you said 1, 4, 5, 4, 1, 5. We're going to come back to that in just a second, Rishi, okay? Because we can play different things, and I'll get into that. So don't worry, I'm going to answer your question on that in just a second. Okay? So I've got 1 for a measure, okay? Or for 4 measures, excuse me. So let's say I give it a rhythm now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose either a straight rhythm to play, or I'm going to choose what we call a swing or a shuffle rhythm. So do this with me. If you have your guitar, and if you don't, it's okay. But if you've got your guitar with you, what you can do is take this A chord, and you can play like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that would be a measure. We're going to do that for 4 measures. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and you get the idea, right? So I do that for 4 measures. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is for the next 4 measures, I'm going to go to D for 2 measures, and then A for 2 measures. So I get D and D, and then I go back to A, okay, now we get to the last 5 measures, and this is the crucial part. This is what we often refer to as the turnaround, because this is where we're introduced to the 5 chord. Is in the last 4 measures. So it goes 5, 4, 1, 1, or 5, 4, 1, 5, which I'm going to show you. So in those last 4 measures, I go E, and then D, and then A, and then the last measure, either I stay here, or what I might do is I might take that very last measure and go to the 5 chord, the E chord, because it tells the person or the band that we're starting all over again. So let me play those last 4 measures again. So we have E, D, or A, and then here comes that turnaround. Here comes the E. And then we start all over again. Now, if we want to make this sound a little bit more like blues, what we can do is take that straight rhythm and change that into what we call a swing or a shuffle rhythm. And I don't want to get into the difference between those. It has more to do with the groove from the drummer than it really does for us. But what we're going to do is we're going to swing that rhythm. So let me show you what happens. I'm going to take this A chord and I'm going to start going like this. Here comes my 4 chord. Now here comes back my 1 chord. Now here comes my 5, 4, 1, 5 at the end. Here we go. my 4 chord, my 1. Now I could stay here, or I can close it out by going, and I start all over again. And that 12 measure or 12 bar sequence gets repeated over and over and over. So the unique thing, as I said in the beginning about blues, is that the band knows the progression. You know, if you say rock could mean anything from, you know, the Rolling Stones to God knows what, right? It could be anything in between. But when you say blues, again, blues can be lots of things too, but generally blues is going to be based around this idea. And then, you know, what I always tell people is there's 2 different things. There's blues and there's bluesy, right? If we listen to AC/DC for the most part is bluesy. They're not blues. Now, they have a couple of songs that use 12-bar blues, like Rocker is pretty much based off of blues progression. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I think Ride On is based off of 12-bar blues. I can't remember exactly, but most of their songs, like Highway to Hell, whatever it might be, aren't blues, but they're bluesy, right? But then you get bands like, maybe it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, or maybe it's B.B. King, or maybe it's ZZ Top, right? Where they have some stuff that's bluesy and they have some stuff that's blues. Led Zeppelin. There you go, Joe. Led Zeppelin is very bluesy. Not always, right? Not always, but a lot of times they are. So what we're talking about here is a progression that is blues. Not just bluesy, but it really is the 12-bar blues. It's the stem of blues. Okay? And what we want to do is understand that before we get into soloing over the next 3 sections. I want to make sure that you understand this, because when you go to solo over 12-bar blues, you want to know, obviously, number 1, what key it's in, number 2, what groove it has, right? Is it a straight rhythm or is it a kind of a swing groove? Because that's going to play into the way that you solo. And certainly, what key is it in, if I didn't already say that, okay? So, because the key will tell us what chords that we're using. And we're going to get into that. Chuck Berry, there you go, Rishi. Chuck Berry would be a perfect example. When you hear like a... and you hear this thing go, "Cause the evergreens, right? You hear that, and guess what? It's based off the 1, 4, and 5 chords. So the beautiful thing that I want to show you next, if that makes sense so far, what I want to show you next is how, with this understanding of what a 12-bar blues is and what 1, 4, 5 is, how if you know your power chords or your bar chords, how you can play blues in any key, okay? So if you know your power chords or bar chords, whichever ones, and I would strongly recommend you learn them both if you haven't already. With open chords, we're kind of stuck because we only know like A and C and D and G and things like that. But with a power chord or a bar chord, let's take the same scenario that we just had, a 12-bar blues, in the key of A, which is A, D, and E. Remember, 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, and then 5, 4, 1, 1, or 5, 4, 1, 5, however you want to play that. Think that. And you can even write it on a piece of paper, just whatever you need to do to kind of get it in your head. So if I was going to play this as a power chord or a bar chord, I need to know the names of the notes on my 6th string and my 5th string, of course, which is going to help me. At least, at the very least, my 6th string, because if I go to the 5th fret of the 6th string and make a power chord, I've got myself an A power chord. Okay? So I've got an A power chord right here. Now, underneath that 6th string power chord is your 4 chord. It's your D chord. Now, what's nice is, and again, I'll get to bar chords because it's the same thing, but what's really cool about this is because the guitar is built the way it is, whenever you find the 1 chord on the 6th string, wherever it is you want to be, right underneath you on the 5th string is your 4 chord. So if you're in the key of A, this is your 1, and this is your 4, which again, if we're in A, B, C, D, this is A, and this is D. Okay? If you want to be in the key of G, we'd move over to G. Here's your 1, and here's your 4. G, A, B, C. G, and C. So you'd be able to play the 1, 4, 5, which I'm going to show you in a second here, quicker than you could probably count it, because all you have to do is find the 1 on the 6th string, and the 4 is always located underneath you on the 5th string. Hey, Marcelo, I see he says, "Hi, Steve from Argentina." Hey, Marcelo, so we got 1, 4. Well, then 5 is located just 2 frets higher on the 5th string from wherever the 4 was. So if we're on 1, 4, and move 2 frets higher, we've got 5. 1, 4, 5. So you create this little L shape. 1, 4, 5. If I want to be in the key of G, 1, 4, 5. If I want to be in the key of F sharp, I could go to F sharp. 1, 4, 5. It's always going to look the same on the guitar when you start on the 6th string like that. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay?
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to guitarzoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to guitarzoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
So now let's expand that out into bar chord territory. And then what we're going to do today, and this is what I want to make sure and get through before we end today, is expanding your bar chords to make them sound more bluesy. That's really the point today. So we understand 12-bar blues now. We understand 1, 4, 5 and what that really means, okay? Referring to the 1st, 4th, and 5th chords in whatever chord or whatever key we're in, okay? Now we understand that if we play this in power chord or bar chord form, we could play it in all 12 keys. So if somebody said to you, hey, we're going to do 12-bar blues in the key of B flat, you don't have to panic. You can go, oh, B flat. Okay, so there's B flat. 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now let's expand these into bar chords for those of you that have already started doing your bar chords or maybe have been doing them for years, right? So I've got an A major bar chord, a D major bar chord, and an E major bar chord. I'll come back to 8-bar blues in just a second here, okay? So 1, 4, 5, okay? A, D, and E. So those are my major chords. The first thing that I want to do to these chords to make it sound more bluesy is I want to convert all 3 of these chords into what we call dominant 7th chords, which means you're adding in the minor 7th of the scale, if you know what that is. If you don't, here's a really easy way to think of it. If you're on an A chord, add in the note G, which is a whole step or 2 frets back from the root, which is A. You're going to add in the note G into that chord. So A is going to get a G. And the way I do that is I take my pinky off the guitar. I got my bar going here. So I had my major chord. I take that pinky off, and I get this dominant 7th chord sound. Yep, and transparent says, I never consider power chords as real chords. Well, they're not real chords in a theoretical sense of having a root, 3rd, and 5th, but they're real chords in terms of music, right? They're real chords in terms of guitar playing and rock and roll. But in terms of theory, it would be a dyad, right? It's not a triad. But again, that's really neither here nor there. But hopefully that makes sense. So I'm playing an A7, Joe. You're absolutely right. A7. That's what I'm playing. So it's an A7 or A dominant 7, we call it. And I do that by simply taking that pinky off, and it gives me this kind of sound. And it gives that a little bit more of a bluesy tone. Now, if I go to my 4 chord here, which is my D, which is my major bar chord, if you know that, okay? What I'm going to do is make that into a 7th chord by playing, starting on the 5th string, I'm going to play 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. And I do that by barring, and you're going to be able to watch this later, everybody. So if I'm going too fast, you're going to be able to watch the replay later. So don't worry about it, okay? You can always grab your guitar after work or whatever it is you're doing, and you can watch it a little bit later, okay? It's okay. So I've got my bar, I'm using my 3rd finger on the 4th string and my pinky on the 2nd string, okay? And there's the sound of my dominant 7th or my D7. And then if I move it up 2 frets, I get E7, okay? Now if I add a bit of that swing rhythm to this, Starts sounding more like blues. Here comes my next 4 measures. So I go to my 4 chord. Then back to the 1. Now I'm down to my bottom 4, so I go to my 5 chord. 4. My 1. And then either stay here or close it out by going back to that 5 chord. Okay? So that's a really easy way of taking your major bar chords and just simply turning them into 7th chords, or what we refer to as dominant 7th chords. Same thing, A7, D7, E7. And all of a sudden it begins to sound a little bit more like blues. Now, someone had asked about 8-bar blues. So let me explain this. Gibran says, are all blues chords based on the 7th? They really are, because when you start playing major 7th chords, you start getting into more jazz-sounding progressions. Now, jazz and blues are kind of like brothers or sisters, or however you want to think of it. It's kind of what they are, okay? But blues tends to emphasize the dominant 7th or the minor 7th. And again, if you know anything about your theory, and jazz tends to emphasize the major 7th tonality. So that's what makes them sound a little bit different from each other. So let me go back to the 8-bar blues thing. So 8-bar blues really is 12-bar blues, but it's just shortened. So if I was going to play an 8-bar blues, it would sound like this. 1. So the progression changes. A really great one to listen to, which I always used to use in my guitar lessons when I used to teach group classes and things like that, is Get a Haircut by George Thorogood. So if you think about it, when he says, let's see, there it is. So it goes 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Grew my hair long and broke all the rules. And he goes to 4. And then he goes to 5. Then he starts all over. So he's just going 4 measures of 1, 2 of 4, and 2 of 5. Okay? If you look at Johnny Be Good, let's look at that one once. What are we doing there? 1, 2, 3. No, that'll be 12, 4, 5. Yeah. That one, though, stays on the 5 and then goes back to 1. So it doesn't go 5, 4, 1, 5. It goes 5, 5, 1, 1. So the point, I'm not trying to confuse you. What I'm saying is the 12-bar blues can morph into different things. Like in Johnny Be Good, the last 4 measures isn't 5, 4, 1, 1 or 5, 4, 1, 5. Okay? It's 5, 5, 1, 1. That's what he does. Okay? I mean, that's okay. But again, let's just start with something concrete, and then from there what we can do is we can start learning how things morph and become something else, right? So we've taken the 12-bar blues, we've learned how it can become other things, for instance, like an 8-bar blues or maybe a 12 with a different 12 4-measure tag at the end, right? We figured out how we can play that as bar chords and move it wherever we want across the fretboard in any key, okay? So let's expand just a little bit more on these chords, and then what I'm going to do is show you something else that's super cool too, okay? So we're going to take this A7 here, and this D7, and this E7, and the one thing I really like to show people is an easy way to make this sound even cooler is instead of playing them all as 7th chords, okay, you take your 7th, and let's take that 4 chord, and instead of playing it as a D7, let's play it as a D9, which means I'm playing 5, 4, 5, 5. You see that? And then back to my A7. So I'm going from A7 to my D9. Okay? And then back to my A7. And then when my 5 chord comes up, I'm going to go to E9, which is 7, 6, 7, 7. But I'm going to take that pinky and I'm going to kick it out 1 to the 8th fret. Now, someone in the Facebook group had asked about the sharp 9, so I want to make sure I tackle this. I'm sorry I don't remember which person asked, but I'm going to talk about this. So here's your E sharp 9. This is your Jimi Hendrix chord. And then back down to a regular 9, and then And Lucas says, I don't understand those chords yet. That's okay. You don't have to understand them all yet. But again, this video is available to you when you get there. Here's the logical transition if you're just new to this stuff. Learn to play some blues in open chords. Just stay in the key of G or the key of A or whatever it might be. And maybe learn some seventh chords down there, like a G7 and a C7 and a D7 or something like that. You could easily just change up the open chords that you're working with. If you know your bar chords, then what you want to do is, and again, I'm using all major right now, but we will be talking about minor in just a second here. Okay? So I've got A7, which was just A major, but I took my pinky out. And then I went to this D9. Now, I could have went to D7, it would have been fine, but I really love the sound of that. And I love to take this D9, for instance, to do little things like slide. And that's where you start getting into funkier stuff like Chili Peppers or Stevie Wonder or whatever it might be, is if you're playing. And again, makes no theoretical sense. It just sounds freaking cool, which is great. Okay, so you got your A7, your D9, and your E sharp 9. Right, which is your foxy lady, excuse me while I kiss the sky, all that kind of stuff, right? Purple haze stuff. It's that. So your 5 chord is the one that can be a sharp 9. Your 4 chord functions better as a regular 9th. Okay? And then your A7. So that's a really great way of just expanding these, okay? Once you've got your A7, your D9, your E sharp 9, whatever, or maybe you're just playing these all at 7ths, or could you use A diminished? Well, what I like to use, I'll use a different kind of diminished. Let me show you this for a second. So let's say I decided to take the A chord and turn that into a 9th chord. Okay, so now because it sounds kind of funky when I play it this low on the guitar. So I'm playing 5, 4, 5, 4, right? And instead of playing it that way, what I like to do is I'll drop off the 6th string. And sorry if I'm getting too far out there, but I just want to show you this. So I'll drop off the 6th string entirely. I won't even use it, and I'll play 4, 5, 4, 5. And it's still A, but I'm missing the root. And then I'll go to my D9, and then back. Because you got a bass player back there that's probably hitting that A, and it just sounds super cool. Now, again, I'm not trying to bury anybody with information. I just want to give you a lot of stuff because you're always going to be able to come back to this, and you're going to be able to watch this later if you need to. And I want to remind you, I've got a guitar course coming out called Blues Creativity. It's Blues Creativity, okay? Technically, it's called Creative Blues Soloing. I never know the names of these courses, but I created it with the idea of getting people to understand how to be more creative when they play. And today's live session is all about prepping the rhythm underneath for the soloing that we're going to do on top of it, because I want to be aware of what key I'm in. I want to be aware of the groove that I have. I want to be aware of some of the note options that I have as I play. So Pat says, lost me at the sharp 9. I'm sorry, but like I said, you can always come back to this later and you can watch it and grab some stuff as well. Okay? So, A7, D9, E sharp 9, which is just E9, but I'm kicking that pinky out 1 fret higher, so it gives it that sharp 9 kind of sound. Now, another question somebody had in the Facebook Blues group was minor. I had a question about using the minor sharp 9. So let me kind of address that just for a second here. We can take the entire 12-bar blues that we've been playing, which you'll notice has been in the key, in a major key, A major, D major, E major, or whatever key you want to be in, okay? Now we can convert all of that into minor. So we could play the exact same chord progression, but instead of playing them as major chords, we play them as minor chords. So I take A minor, just listen to that sound. And then we go to the D minor. And then that A minor. And then we've got our E minor. You see? Now what you'll notice is a regular A minor would look like this. Okay, if you know your bar chords, I'm playing an A minor bar chord, but if I take my pinky off, again, I'm making it an A minor 7, which makes it sound way more bluesy. D minor, but if I take my pinky off, D minor 7. Sounds really cool. How long have I been playing the guitar? Since I was 13. So we're going on 13, 23, 33, 43, almost 40 years. 37 years I've been playing guitar. So D minor 7, back to A minor 7. Kind of like Black Magic Woodman, Kevin says. You're absolutely right. I always think like, Still Got the Blues, or Damn Right I've Got the Blues, or some of those kinds of songs. I just love minor blues. I love the sound of it. And then E minor 7. Right? That whole thing, it sounds really cool. So that's a minor thing that you could focus on as well. But this got me thinking about the question in the Facebook group that sometimes what happens is blues artists will substitute the 5 chord, which again, when we were in major, we were playing them all major. When we were in minor, Thrill Is Gone. Thank you, that's a great one. When we're in minor, we're all playing them all minor. But what does happen sometimes is that you'll substitute a major 5 chord in the minor blues. So you could play this playing A minor, D minor, and E major, and you get this. I'll kind of speed it up here. So here's your 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord here, minor. Now listen here. I'm going to go to the 5 major. See? That sounds really cool. Okay? Sounds really cool. So there's lots of really great stuff you can do. So to kind of summarize our discussion today, we've talked about 12-bar blues, understanding what it is, when we use it, and how we can convert it into other things, because it's rock and roll, people. There are no rules, okay? There's just guidelines. There's just places to begin, and then from there we go wherever it is that we want to go. And there's lots of really wonderful places that you can go with blues, which is why blues spawned rock and roll and metal and all these other things came out of this, right? I always think back in the 70s with, or well, really in the 70s with like the Ramones or the New York Dolls or the Dead Boys. If anybody listened to punk music, I used to love a lot of early punk music. You know, you take the New York Dolls and it would basically be a really fast bluesy riff with a blues solo, but they looked really punk and it was really fast, and that's what made it sound punk, even though it had these blues elements to it. So we understand 12-bar blues and how we can morph that a little bit. We understand how we can take and simply play them as open chords, or we can play them as power chords or bar chords, okay? We can convert those into minor chords. Stray Cats, Al Mack said Stray Cats, which is a great one, okay? Yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff. Isaac says, can you please give me your guitar, please? No, I need my guitar, but thank you. Sorry, but no. But hopefully that helps you a little bit understanding this a little bit more. So remember, on Wednesday, I'm going to go live again. And what am I doing on Wednesday? Do you guys remember? I got a couple of teammates out there what I'm doing on Wednesday. Maybe one of you can tell me what I'm doing. I know we've got licks coming up. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's licks. Then we're going to talk about some soloing tactics, things like that. And then I'm going to have a Q&A as well, where I'm just going to answer questions. Happy New Year's to you too, Aaron. And Live to Play Guitar says that's a sick guitar. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot fun guitar to play. How do you count the swing rhythm? Mark's music and motivation. That's good. How do you count the swing? I just think of it as a heartbeat. Whenever you want to play in a shuffle or a swing, think of it as this. That's your rhythm. That's your swing. When you want straight, think of it as a march. That's straight. It's marching, right? When you want to swing, boom, down, boom, boom, it's bum, 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 bum. There's so many different ways we can approach rhythm, and that's a whole other conversation that we could certainly have, and I'm sure we will at some point. But hopefully that helps you a little bit. So everybody, please, please, please stay positive. We've moved into 2021. We want to keep playing. We want to keep having some fun, and you just got to keep your attitude positive. That's the most important thing. So please remember, at noon on Wednesday, 2 days from now, I'm going to go live again, and we're going to be talking about, again, I think it's licks, and then on Friday we'll talk about soloing, and then I think it is. I can't remember for sure. And then on Sunday, I'll be doing a Q&A where you can ask me all sorts of questions. But hopefully let's try and keep them blues related. If we start talking about, whatever other technique, that's great too, but I want to keep these focused on yeah, and for those of you that had mentioned about Lexi Lejo dying, I know I heard the news this morning too. Very, very sad. And this is why, again, I tell you all the time, life is too short, and you have to be thankful for every single day that you get. Okay, it's easy to get frustrated by a million things out there in life. Certainly, social media doesn't help that. Okay, life is too short. You got to take advantage of every day. Be thankful, and that's what you got to do. That's the way I live my life. So everybody take care, stay positive, and remember, check out Creative Blues Soloing. There's a link. I know the guys have put up a link a couple of times here. Maybe they'll throw something up again for you guys. You can check it out. And thank you for being here and taking time out of your day. I appreciate it so much. Please share the video with somebody else. Let them know about the video if it helps. If you're interested in the course, check it out. If you aren't, that's okay. I'm just glad you're playing. So everybody stay positive, and I'll see you Wednesday at noon again, noon Central, 12 p.m. Central, okay?
Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, let's go ahead and get started. Today what we're going to be talking about various blues techniques. Now, these techniques, of course, can be used in other things too. It's not just blues, but we're going to make them more blues-oriented. And then I'll be going live again on Friday and again on Sunday. And Friday, you definitely don't want to miss Friday because I'm going to be doing some really important things that make blues sound like blues. We're going to be talking about that. And then Sunday, we're going to be doing a Q&A. And they're both at the same time. So whatever time you're at right now is going to be the exact same time. Okay? Hey, everybody, this is awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do when it comes to effective playing, and this certainly can go with chords, but it's going to be more geared toward soloing. And again, you don't have to be some, experienced guitar player, soloing for 20 years. Just whatever works for you. But let's just start with something simple. The first thing I like to talk about when it comes to making your guitar solos sound more effective and less like you're just playing a scale is to focus on what I call dynamics. Okay? Now, there's a lot of ways to approach dynamics. So the first thing I want to do is show you this. So right now, I'm using this Ibanez guitar, and I've got the toggle switch, the pickup selector switch, in the center position. So it's going to a single coil pickup. Okay? And then I'm using the Kemper back here, and I've got just kind of a, medium dirty kind of tone. But I want to show you this. So when I go to play in this center position right here, that's what it sounds like. Hey, Steve Stine here from guitarzoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to guitar-zoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at guitar-zoom.com.